Hi, my name is Josh Harcus, and today we are going to talk about how technology fits into sales enablement. A lot of people have a hard time figuring out how technology fits into sales enablement because they always think that the tools are going to solve all of their problems. As many of you may know, that's not the case. So why is that? Well, the expectation is that a tool will be able to solve for the lack of process. So in our talk today, we're going to go through the steps that'll help you make the best decisions on what type of tools you should get for your sales team and ensure that they will guarantee effectiveness with your sales team. You ready to get started? Let's do this. All right, so every sales enablement initiative needs to start with a goal. An initiative might be, we need to hit 145,000 in ARR sold by January 15th. But we need to have an entire goal that not only one sales rep, but the entire organization needs to hit. Now, why is that important that it needs to be the whole organization and not just a single rep? It all comes back to unity with the sales team. As sales individuals, we love to pride ourselves on being extremely competitive, which is great. But you also need unity to be able to figure out what's working in between different sales reps. And you need to be able to adopt that kind of transparency and unity amongst the team so they can push the whole sales organization forward. So after you've come up with a goal, we suggest using an acronym like SMART, which stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely or time-bound. So a SMART goal would be $145,000 in new MRR sold by January 15th. That's specific. We know it's a revenue number. It's measurable. Did we hit $145,000 or not? It's relevant because obviously we're here. Oh, sorry, it's attainable. It's more, okay, based on the trends, it looks like we'll be able to hit that number. It's relevant. We're trying to go after revenue. We work in sales. That's a relevant goal. And it's time bound. We have to hit that by January 15th. Extremely important, very simple to do, but a lot of people neglect doing that and it comes back to bite them. So start with goal. That's number one. What's next? Process. So process is almost like your company's sales methodology. It's what are the steps that every single deal needs to go through to become a customer with our company. A lot of people say, hold on a second, I sell to several different verticals. They go through many steps, or it takes a lot longer to go through that process. Other ones, it's a lot shorter and they take less steps. The reality is, if you take a moment and step back, read a book like Bestselling, you'll realize that every single deal actually goes through 4 key steps. Now, obviously, with an enterprise deal, there might be more decision makers that need to get bought in, and so it'll take longer for them to go through those 4 steps, versus a smaller deal where the decision maker is already on the phone, you can go through those 4 steps a lot faster. The reality is, you can still measure and have a really good pipeline because you'll know where those are. And if you break it down that simple, you'll be able to pull from some of the larger enterprise deals what's working there and apply that to some of your smaller deals like your SMBs or whatever else. So defining a good process will help you tremendously because it'll help you actually make a predictable funnel. A lot of us, we have pipelines that are completely inflated because a sales guy gets on the phone. Let's say I'm the sales guy. I get on the phone with a deal and I crush the call. The lead is super excited. They look like they're completely bought in, ready to go. So I accidentally push that lead too far forward in the sales process, only to find out I didn't ask enough qualifying questions or I didn't ask all the right questions to lead them to where I thought they were, and I rushed it. So what does that mean? That means I have an inflated pipeline that isn't going to really produce the results that we think it will. Pretty much every company we've worked with always has an inflated pipeline because they didn't establish clear guidelines of what needed to be answered every single step of the process. Okay, so we've answered process. Now let's get on to systems. So systems is where kind of the rubber meets the road with process. Process is kind of like the methodology. It's what we're all going to follow. Systems is where you know, okay, this needs to happen for this to happen. A lot of different things we can come up with documents would be like an SLA, a service level agreement between marketing and sales. That is something you would create during the systems phase. You would say, we need to build an agreement where sales will guarantee to follow up with leads at a minimum of a 24-hour period for every qualified lead that marketing brings to the table. So creating SLAs, service level agreements between marketing and sales, helps the teams communicate. It's a good document, a good tool to use to communicate between those two departments so they know what to expect, and when they deliver this, the other team is going to deliver this. Systems also would be just a plain workflow on a piece of paper. When a lead comes in, when an inbound lead comes in, what's the process we go through to make sure we're following our sales process? The only way to do that is by documenting each step and by creating good systems to execute the sales process. Once you've done these three things, you've created an awesome, predictable way for growing your sales. One huge caveat with this is it is still manual. You will have a predictable pipeline, but it won't be efficient. So now, and only now, never before, do we introduce technology. Why? Because we want to make this a more efficient process, and we want to make sure that our sales team is not bogged down by what they need to do in order to document where leads are in the process and not rush them too far forward. So this is how you can evaluate whether tools are the right fit for your organization, because you'll have all the systems in place. You'll know how it fits with the process, and you'll understand the big picture goal. So now you can take tools and compare them and factor, okay, is this tool worth it from an expense point of view? How many hours is it going to save my sales team? A lot of times we can come at these great research tools, which are awesome, and realize that the cost might be a little too high because we can do most of the research on our own. So do we really need a research tool? Maybe it's a tool that helps you with more effectiveness with calling leads. Do I have a good system that helps me document the phone calls, that helps me call the right people, that helps tell me which lead I need to talk to at which point in order to know the best ones to move forward in the sales process as I'm following the systems that I've established? Taking the time to do all of this up front will help you tremendously when you come to picking out tools. And you can make sure you can go back to the systems and say, okay, if we're going to use this CRM, does it communicate effectively with our communication tools? Because we've agreed on our service level agreement that we're going to follow up with qualified leads within 1 hour of them coming into our pipeline. Do we have effective tools and not people that will direct those leads? If that's what we're signing and if that's what we're agreeing to do on the sales side, do we have an effective tool that will help us filter the leads of which are qualified, which aren't, automatically, and transition them to the right salesperson? A lot of us have sales ops or marketing ops people that are establishing lead flow, and they're the ones that are assigning leads to different people. Well, what happens when that sales ops person, the person assigning the leads, is sick? Or what happens when they get pulled into a meeting? If we're agreeing to call leads within 1 hour, which we know the stats of how quickly leads drop off, if we're agreeing and we're signing that that's our service level agreement, we need to make sure we have the right technology to go from a form submission on a website to being qualified to then being delivered to the right person. For us, a perfect example of this is we have the forms on our site communicate with a middleware software called Zapier, and then that Zapier piece sends those to Slack. Because on our sales team, we have a 5-minute follow-up rule. And the only way we could do that is by automating that with tools and with technology. But again, the only way we knew how to do that is because we had systems that told us what needed to happen when we followed up with these leads. How well does this work? Well, you're more than welcome to check out. We have a case study on HubSpot's website where we grew our revenue 6x in 1 year because of executing a process like this. It's worked for a lot of our client partners, and it's something I strongly suggest you take the time to work through. Start with your goal, move to your process, create systems, and then use technology to make that process more efficient and automate that process. The last stage in sales enablement is content. We won't talk about that today, but content basically is what areas, how do we make sure that we're being effective in the way we're communicating with our leads and we're using the right content at the right time. That is sales enablement. Congratulations, you made it all the way through. You should be a sales enablement expert now. If you're looking for more materials like this and you want more feedback, I wrote a book on it. It's called A Closing Culture. The essence of the book is basically communicating that this is a culture issue. If you want to be able to follow up with leads within 5 minutes, if you want to be able to execute effectively between marketing and sales, you have to start at the culture level in uniting all of the teams. So the book walks through how to unite your teams, what metrics you should use in measuring them, and how to effectively deliver this with your current sales teams. Feel free to check it out on Amazon. aclosingculture.com is a great place to start. There's some good resources there. And by all means, you're more than welcome to email me, josh@huyfy.com, josh@huyfy.com. We should have that hopefully right here or potentially on a card after this. All right, keep crushing it.